HDFN. So HDFN is also known as erythroblastosis fetalis. So this is an abnormal condition characterized by early destruction of fetal or neonatal cell. So this usually happens when there is a formation of erythroblasts which are abnormal, or blast which is found on the peripheral circulation, particularly for those developing fetus. Okay, in a normal basis, erythroblast is only present in blood-forming organs. But in the case of HDFN, those erythroblasts are found in the circulation. Okay? So, in the normal basis, dapat yung mga erythroblast natin ay makikita lang natin in the developing organs that could form blood. But in this case, no, for HDFN, makikita sila sa circulation. And since there is an increased erythroblast in in the peripheral circulation, this could cause a stressed erythropoiesis. So, stressed erythropoiesis or premature erythropoiesis. Okay, so this is also characterized by early or increased premature or early destruction of fetal or neonatal red blood cells due to maternal incompatible antibodies. So when the blood type of the mother is incompatible, no, to the blood type of the child, particularly, okay, let me emphasize later on the difference between ABO and RH incompatibilities between the mother and her baby. Okay, so in this case, in erythroblastosis fetalis, the neonatal red cell is affected due to the mother's antibody. So that means that the mother lacks the antigen that the baby has because of, diba, based on the alleles, no, 50% will be coming from the mother and then the 50% will be coming from the father. So the father has the antigen or gives off the antigen for the baby, however, wala po nito si mother. So nagre-react yung antibody ni mother dun sa antigen na meron kay baby. Okay, so for the pathogenesis of HDFN, so it all starts when there is a blood incompatibility between the mother and the baby. So let's say for an instance, the baby is RH positive, okay, but the mother is RH negative. Okay, the baby has the D antigen but the mother does not have the D antigen. Why is it that the baby has the D antigen? Probably because of the father's phenotype. Okay, this phenomenon is defined as when the mother lacks the antigen that the baby possesses. It's because of the paternal phenotype which is responsible for that incompatibility. So for the antigen of the baby to cause HDFN, dapat yung antigen or one of the major requirements is that the antigen should be well developed at birth. There are certain blood groups on which these antigens are already well developed at birth. And if the antigen of this particular blood type is poorly developed, it will not cause HDFN. Okay? Next is the TPH or the transplacental hemorrhage or the fetal-maternal hemorrhage. So this is also known as transplacental bleeding or fetal-maternal bleeding. And this usually occurs about 28 weeks of gestation. So 28 weeks of gestation. And then during delivery, that's when the placenta separates from the uterus. And of course, there will be an association of bleeding. So when there is bleeding, the blood of the fetus is then get mixed with the maternal system. So, doon usually nangyayari yung maternal immunization. Okay? So, when the transplacental hemorrhage occurs, diba? For example, this is the placenta and then this is the the baby, no, after birth. For example, this one is the baby, and then this one is the placenta. During birth, no, nahihiwalay po si baby dun sa pinaka-placenta. So, nagkakaroon ng bleeding, and the system of the baby becomes mixed to the system of the mother. Okay, during this episode, the maternal is then becomes immunized. Okay, the baby has the D antigen, but the mother doesn't have the D antigen. So, if the baby has the D antigen and becomes mixed with the maternal system, that's the time that the mother produces an antibody. Okay, so this can cause, or the fetal cell are then recognized by the mother as foreign, on which the maternal system will then stimulate the maternal immune system to produce antibodies. So there is an antibody production due to sensitization, on which the fetal cell is recognized as foreign by the mother system or the maternal system. So, what's the mechanism of the mother? Di magfo-form siya ngayon ng antibody. Okay? That is readily available to react on the fetal cell by the time there is another pregnancy. Okay? So, there is an antibody production. Nagkakaroon ng maternal antibody directed against the red cell. And this antibody is IgG, or usually IgG in nature. And as we all know that IgG antibody is clinically significant in transplantation because it can readily cross the placenta. So this IgG is very small, a monomer, and it can cause the placental migration. Okay, it transports the placenta, on which IgG1 and IgG3 are considered as clinically significant. So after crossing the placenta, the maternal antibody readily attacks, or readily reacts onto the red cell of the developing fetus. So if the maternal antibody readily reacts to the red cell or the fetal cell of the baby, this could cause sensitization, and later on can cause red cell destruction or lysis. Okay? And those are the reasons why the baby develops these clinical features. So let's start with the clinical features of the fetus or the developing fetus. So the most immediate severe complication among fetus is anemia. Okay? So this is the most immediate and the earliest complications among the developing fetus. So nasa loob pa lang ng sinapupunan, okay, nagkakaroon na kaagad si baby ng fetal anemia. And then later on, we will discuss how are we going to identify or to detect anemia onto the developing fetus, kasi we cannot do CBC directly on the fetus. So, meron pong mga methods that we can do to detect anemia on the fetus inside the womb of the mother. So, what happens in anemia? So, the same clinical features with the usual anemia. The red blood cell is decreased, or there is a red blood cell decrease because of fetal destruction brought by maternal antibodies. So the red blood cell population among the babies are decreased due to the destruction of maternal antibodies. So for example, this is your red blood cell, and then this is the maternal antibody. In the case of HDFN, nagkakaroon ng lysis. Okay? So the continuous destruction of red cells of the baby brought by maternal antibodies can cause anemia inside the womb or in the developing fetus. Next is hyperbilirubinemia or jaundice. Okay, so this is the most immediate severe complications among newborns. So sa loob pa lang ng sinapupunan ni baby, for example, this is the maternal womb, and then this is the uterus. The baby inside the womb already has anemia. Okay, already has anemia. So doon pa lang sa loob, meron ng anemia. Pag nakalabas na siya ngayon, the baby usually appears jaundiced. Okay, jaundiced because the newborns have already decreased red blood cell count. Okay, anemia. So, if there is decreased red blood cell, there is also an increase in unconjugated bilirubin. Okay, unconjugated bilirubin or B1. Okay, so there is a decreased red blood cell or accelerated fetal destruction. There is an increase or accumulation of unconjugated bilirubin. Okay, so the manifestation usually depends on the severity of anemia. Usually, or it depends on the type of HDFN. Okay, if fetal anemia is moderate to severe, the onset of hyperbilirubinemia is immediate. Halimbawa, dun pa lang sa sinapupunan may severe anemia na. Paglabas pa lang ni baby or even kakalabas pa lang, no, nag-yellow na talaga yung bata. But in case naman of mild fetal anemia, usually the onset of jaundice usually appears after or within or after 24 hours. Okay, kung sa loob pa lang ng sinapupunan, may marked na siya na red blood cell destruction or anemia, paglabas pa lang ni baby, yellow na kaagad yung itsura. Okay, so the jaundice of manifestation is the jaundice manifestation is delayed if the anemia is mild or absent during the fetal development. So nakadepende yan sa baby's condition, no, during pregnancy. Okay, so this is the earliest or the most immediate manifestation of HDFN among newborns. Okay, among newborns but not present in the fetus, among the fetus because of the maternal liver. Okay, we cannot distinguish hyperbilirubinemia whether the increased B1 is because of the mothers or it's because of the baby. So during gestation, when the fetus is still in developing, the excess B1, for example, this during pregnancy again, no, why is it that we cannot distinguish the B1 from the mother, or the B1 is coming from the baby or the developing fetus? It's because during this gestation, when the fetus is still inside the womb, the excess B1 of the fetus diffuses out, sumasama siya dun sa placenta. Okay? And it will be transferred to the maternal circulation. And in the maternal circulation, okay, the B1 is then bound to the albumin of the mother. Yung B1 ng bata, sumasama siya dun sa mother, sa maternal bilirubin, at pumupunta yon sa maternal liver. Okay, it will be transported in the maternal circulation. Okay, so the B1 will then bound to albumin of the mother and then transported to the liver, and then afterwards the conjugation. Okay, it will become B2. Okay, thus there's no hyperbilirubinemia during fetal development. Okay, after birth, since nakalabas na si baby and there's no maternal liver already, and then hyperbilirubinemia would occur again depending on the severity of anemia during the fetal development. Okay, next is kernicterus. Kernicterus is a severe complication of hyperbilirubinemia. So this is a severe form on which there is an accumulation of B1. Okay, kanina, diba, I mentioned about hyperbilirubinemia. Hyperbilirubinemia due to increased or accelerated fetal destruction. So kernicterus, if there is increased B1, okay, it's a domino effect, no, due to a very decreased or a very low red blood cell, okay, brought by anemia. Okay, so this is a severe form of B1 accumulation that goes to the brain of the baby. So yung accumulation ng B1, umaakyat na siya sa brain ng baby. And that could cause a series of complications like seizures. It could also cause deafness. Okay, it can also cause brain damage. And worse, no, the baby might not survive, no, during or a few days after birth because of course, the baby's brain and organs are still developing or very hollow pa or very sensitive pa. So since meron ng increased B1, maybe the baby could not survive, no, after a few hours or a few days. Next is hydrops fetalis. Hydrops fetalis is also known as fetal edema. So fetal edema is seen during 18 to 20 weeks of gestation. Okay, 18 to 20 weeks of gestation. So we can already see inside the womb if the baby or the developing fetus has hydrops fetalis. So in severe cases of HDFN, no, the edema is already seen during 18 to 20 weeks of gestation. So how do we demonstrate it? Na-mention ko kanina, 'di ba? Even inside the womb, makikita na natin yung enlargement, no, or yung pamamanas ng baby or yung pag-enlarge ng mga ng brain and also the parts, no, due to edema. So this is demonstrated via ultrasound. So makikita natin yung nagiging itsura, no, ng baby inside the womb, no, by ultrasound. Okay, so this is the most common cause among fetus on which due to anemia nagkakaroon ng mababang oncotic pressure which can infect the heart and could lead to edema. Okay? Next is hepatosplenomegaly. So hepatosplenomegaly is due to enlargement of liver and increased infiltrations of abnormal or fetal cell. Okay, so this is due to the following reason. Number 1, increased infiltration of abnormal cell in the RES or the reticuloendothelial system. Again, it's related to the liver. No? It's related to increased B1. Okay, and since there is also a stressed erythropoiesis or a very low red blood cell population, this could also cause premature or increase premature erythropoiesis. Okay, there is also a premature erythropoiesis on which the developing organs as well, no, responsible for it is of course our liver and our spleen. So, since hindi na nila kinakaya kasi masyado nang mataas ang B1 plus masyado pang mababa ang red blood cell population, the liver and the spleen are trying their best to produce more red blood cells. Kaya sa sobrang pressure nila na gumawa ng maraming red blood cell, lumalaki sila ngayon. Okay, they become enlarged. And that's what makes it hepatosplenomegaly. Mega enlargement of the liver and the spleen. Okay, due to stressed erythropoiesis. Now, what are the antigens that causes HDFN? So, we have ABO, RH, KEL, Duffy, KID, I, and big S and small s. Okay, so these are clinically significant that can be implicated in HDFN. Now, what are the major types of HDFN? So, let's start with the ABO HDFN. So, this is the most common type, but this is less severe, no, or this is considered as mild. So, these are characterized by weakly positive or negative direct antiglobulin test. Okay? So, used for in vivo or direct antiglobulin test is used for in vivo sensitization of the red blood cell to detect no, if there is maternal sensitization onto the baby. Okay, although the anemia is mild, the presence of spherocytosis or increased spherocytes and reticulocytes are also increased. Okay, there is a an abnormal increase in reticulocytes due to accelerated hemolysis, 'di ba? Due to fetal destruction. So if jaundice and hyperbilirubinemia is present, it usually appears immediately, 24 to 48 hours after birth, and usually seen in group A and group B infants who have group O mothers. Okay, so the firstborn may be affected and there is no preventive measure. So wala pong preventive measure for this type na of HDFN. Okay? So just to add what are the mechanisms, 'di ba? I mentioned that this is a less severe type of HDFN. Now what are the two mechanisms that promotes mild HDFN? Number one, okay, is the presence of soluble substances. Kasi 'di ba in ABO blood group system, we have A and B soluble substances. Okay, A and B soluble substances that is helping the mother neutralize the maternal antibody para less effect sa bata. Okay, the soluble substances of the mother, for example, like this, the A or B soluble substances, for example, this is the maternal antibody, and then this is the fetal red cell. The soluble substances will neutralize the antibody para hindi masyadong mabilis yung fetal, yung maternal sensitization dun sa fetal red cell. Therefore, the damage is mild compared with RH. And another one is the ABO antigen. The ABO antigen, particularly the A antigen, diba? The A antigen is weakly expressed in fetal or neonatal red blood cell. Okay, the ABO antigen is weakly expressed. Usually, the development of these antigens are after birth pa. Although at 37th week of fetal life, there's already the expression of red blood cells, but mas madedevelop pa yan further after birth compared with RH. RH is already there, strongly expressed at birth. So that if we're going to compare ABO and RH HDFN, the severity on RH is mas grabe siya compared with the ABO HDFN. And then for RH HDFN, so this is the most severe HDFN, particularly when we talk about the presence or absence of the antigen. So for example, the mother doesn't have the D antigen. So RH negative siya. So 'di ba the indication of whether the mother or the person is RH positive or negative is the presence or absence of the D antigen. Okay, so the mother is RH negative, so it lacks the D antigen, but the baby or the developing fetus is RH positive, and that is because of paternal circulation. Okay, so this is characterized as well with positive direct antiglobulin test, and the RH spherocytosis is absent compared with ABO HDFN. But there is also an increased reticulocytosis because of abnormal erythropoiesis. Okay, so anemia is present and the reticulocyte is increased but no spherocytosis. Okay, so the type of anemia is moderate and severe. That's why when the baby comes out during delivery, the jaundice is immediate. Okay, within 24 hours or the first 24 hours, immediate ang manifestation ng jaundice. Okay, so as I have mentioned, the mother for RhHDFN is usually the ones who develops the antibody. Why? Because she does not have the D, she doesn't have the D antigen. Okay, on which the baby or her developing baby has the D antigen. So, anong mangyayari? The D antigen of the mother will not the D antigen of the baby, no, will not recognize or will not be recognized by the maternal circulation. Thus, the mother forms an anti-D antibody. Okay, so we can prevent, no, it's preventable. We can prevent RhHDFN by administration of RhIg or RhoGAM. So the RhoGAM neutralizes the antibody to inhibit the reaction between the maternal antibody and the fetal antigen, and will not cause, no, a complications on the subsequent pregnancies. Now let us discuss the difference between ABO and RhHDFN. So ABO-HDFN happens if the child or the baby is either blood type A or blood type B, because both of them or either of the blood types has A and B antigens, while the mother is blood type O, because the mother doesn't have A and B antigens. However, he has, or the mother, she has anti-A and anti-B antibodies. So the antibodies for the ABO-HDFN are naturally occurring IgM antibodies, IgG antibodies. So for this case, why is it that the first baby is affected for this type of HDFN? So let me draw the picture of the womb of the mother. So this is the baby or the child which has the antigens on its system. So meron siyang either A or B antigen. So let's say, for example, the baby is blood type A and the mother is blood type O, no? So in the red blood cells of the fetus, he has the A antigen. However, the mother doesn't have the A antigen, but the mother already has the anti-A antibodies. So as we all know, that anti-A antibody is naturally occurring and it had already developed at 3 to 6 months after birth. So of the mother has the antibody, and when the childbirth comes, okay, so this antibody will cross the placenta and it will readily attack the baby's red blood cells. So kaya the first baby is already affected, no? Or the baby is already anemic. But why is it that the anemia for the ABO-HDFN is milder than RhHDFN? It's because the anemia of ABO-HDFN is milder. It's because the anti-A or the antibodies would react on two specific reasons. Number one, the mother's maternal antibodies would react on the red blood cells of the fetus. And then, of course, it would also react on the other tissues. That's why the burden of the fetus, of the red blood cell of the fetus, which has the antigen, is not as severe as the RhHDFN. That's why the anemia is milder. And the thing about the ABO-HDFN is it has the presence of the spherocytes on the circulation. Okay? And for ABO-HDFN, usually first babies na ang affected, or the firstborn or the first child is already affected. Next is, let us talk about the RhHDFN for the first pregnancy. So this happens if the child is Rh positive, so he has the D antigen, while the mother is Rh negative, so the mother lacks the D antigen. Okay, so the Rh positive of the child is due to the father's genotype. So what happens in the first pregnancy? So let me draw another womb. So this is the womb of the mother, and the baby in it has the antigens or the D antigens on the red blood cells. And then the mother, remember that the antibodies for the mother is not yet developed during the first pregnancy. No, it requires, since the antibodies for RH requires further sensitization from the exposure from an antigen, that's an immune antibodies, kailangan muna na punta yung red blood cells doon sa maternal circulation. So this happens, or the sensitization happens if nakalabas na yung first baby. Because when the umbilical cord detach, or the placenta detaches from the womb, okay, from the uterus, the red blood cell of the mother, or of the baby, will go to the maternal, or will be mixed with the maternal circulation. However, since the D antigen of the baby is foreign to the maternal circulation, okay, hindi siya self-antigens, that's the time that the mother will develop anti-D antibodies. Okay, so ang nangyari dito, nakalabas na yung first baby, no? Wala namang nangyari kay first baby. However, the mother had the antibodies developed. So remember that this antibody is an IgG antibody, which is an immune antibody. So sensitization happens after the delivery of the first child. Next is what happens during the second to the subsequent pregnancies. So let me draw another womb. So with the same mother who had his or who had her firstborn na. So yung susunod na pagbubuntis na niya. So this is the baby, which also has the D antigen. The baby is also Rh positive. And the mother already has the maternal antibodies for anti-D, no? And it had already sensitized with the fetal antigen. So ano po yung mangyayari for the subsequent pregnancies? So for the second pregnancy, okay, in a usual phenomenon, the maternal circulation will be mixed with the fetal circulation in a form of passive immunization or passive immunity. So, ano nangyayari? During the transplacental migration, the antibodies, together with the nutrients of the mother, will go to the circulation of the baby. So, this antibody, remember, is IgG antibody, which is capable of crossing the placenta. So, since that antibody will go, or will go inside the placenta, it will readily react with the fetal red cell of the second baby. So, ang mangyayari dyan, there is sensitization, and there is also the lattice formation. So, the antigen would react with the antibodies forming, okay, destroying the red blood cells of the baby. So, inside the womb, there is further destruction of the fetal red blood cell, causing the fetus to have anemia. Okay? And then what happens if there is a further destruction of fetal red blood cells? Of course, there will be a degradation of the components of the red blood cell, which is hemoglobin, and hemoglobin will be further broken down into unconjugated bilirubin. So unconjugated bilirubin or B1 will then be increased. So during the remaining months or weeks of the pregnancy, the baby is already severely anemic. And when the time comes when the baby comes out from the wound, there is already destroyed red blood cells. The baby is already anemic. And then the hemoglobin have been already broken down into bilirubin. The baby is severely jaundiced. Magkakaroon ng jaundice si baby. And then relating to unconjugated bilirubin or accelerated B1 or increased B1, the B1 together with the antibodies, which is IgG antibody, will make the blood-brain barrier permeable. So always remember na not all components will easily go through the blood-brain barrier. So since this IgG antibody is capable of weakening the blood-brain barrier due to the increased B1, it will now cause damage to the tissues of the brain, causing kernicterus. And the next is, if there is unconjugated bilirubin, there will also be abnormal hematopoietic activity. So if there is abnormal hematopoietic activity, the other tissues for the development of the red blood cells, including the liver and the spleen and the reticular endothelial system, will also become abnormal, and it will cause enlargement of the liver and the spleen, causing hepatosplenomegaly. Okay, so hepatosplenomegaly. So if there is abnormal hematopoiesis, there is also the formation or there will be increase of reticulocytes. And the next, if there will be increased unconjugated bilirubin, there will also be abnormal reticular endothelial system, and there will be abnormal liver. So since abnormal or damaged yung liver, there will also be low levels of albumin. So the low levels of albumin will decrease the oncotic pressure of the fetal cells, causing decreased albumin, causing decreased oncotic pressure, and that will lead to fetal edema. Next, if there will be destroyed fetal red blood cells, of course, there will be um, a low production of oxygen carrying capacity. Okay, low oxygen carrying capacity, and it will need the help of the heart to pump more oxygen to produce more red blood cells. So if there will be decreased oxygen carrying capacity, the heart will try to compensate in making more or pumping more blood, not from the heart, to the lungs, and that will lead to fetal cardiac arrest. So if there will be these complications caused by HDFN, now the worst case scenario would be maternal death. Fetal death or uterine death. Okay, so let us compare the ABO and Rh-HDFN. So for the type of antibody, as we all know that ABO-HDN is naturally occurring. Naturally occurring antibodies, okay? IgG antibodies from blood type O, okay, which has anti-A and anti-B antibodies. Whereas for Rh-HDFN, there are immune IgG antibodies. Like say for example, the anti-D antibodies. Next is for obstetric history, the usual fetus or child that will be affected is a firstborn. Whereas the for Rh-HDFN, the firstborn is unaffected. However, the severe case of HDFN would happen from the second to subsequent offspring. Next, so for the case of anemia for ABO-HDN, it's absent or mild. Whereas for Rh-HDFN, it's moderate to severe. Next is for the case of increased B1 or bilirubinemia. So the onset of bilirubinemia for ABO-HDFN is it will have a peak level at 1 to 3 days. And the rise of the increase for B1 is slow. Whereas for Rh-HDFN, the onset or the increase of B1 in the blood is rapid and the effects are severe. Next is for the direct antiglobulin test for detecting in vivo sensitization of red blood cells. For ABO-HDFN, there will be a weak positive or negative result. Whereas for Rh-HDFN, usually that kasi would involve immune antibodies. So this would be produce a positive result for direct antiglobulin test. Next naman is for the blood picture of the ABO-HDFN. So for the blood picture, usually common ang microspherocytes. Microspherocytes are common and there is also the presence of reticulocytes. Whereas for Rh-HDFN, wala nang microspherocytes but there is reticulocytosis. Next is for prevention. So there is no known prevention for ABO-HDN. However, for Rh-HDFN, there is a preventive measure, which is the administration of Rh immunoglobulin or ROGAM. Next is let us talk about how to assess or the laboratory procedures in detecting and assessing HDFN. So usually, no, we are detecting or trying to detect the fetal maternal blood or fetal maternal hemorrhage or transplacental hemorrhage to assess or to determine the number of the preventive measures, which is ROGAM vials to be administered to the mother. So the usual sample used for this is 1 hour post delivery maternal blood. So the assessment of transplacental bleeding can be assessed qualitatively or quantitatively. So let's start with the qualitative method, which is the resetting test. So for the setting test, that distinguishes the Rh positive fetal cells from the Rh negative maternal cell. So it detects the Rh positive red blood cells from the fetus and then the maternal Rh negative if there is a fetal maternal bleeding. So what will be the procedure for this? So the maternal cell suspension plus the anti-D reagent. So if there is the anti-D will actively sensitize the fetal red cell, which is Rh positive, and the anti-D will be sensitized with the D positive or the D indicator cell. Okay, so what will be the D indicator cell? So the D indicator cell is composed of blood type O with R2 cell. So R2 cell has numerous D antigenic sites. It has numerous D antigenic sites, which or this will bind to a free Fab portion of the anti-D. So it will bind the free Fab that will now promote the resetting formation, which is a positive indicator in this test. So if there is a positive result, there is the formation of a reset formation, meaning there is really a feto-maternal hemorrhage. So if the reset screen is positive, take note. So if the reset screen is positive, then you have to proceed with the quantitative procedure. Kasi ito yung quali natin, no? So you have to proceed with the quantitative procedure to perform, or it must be performed to determine the number of vials of the RHIG that should be given to the patient. Next is the Kleihauer-Betke stain or the acid elution test. So this is a quantitative test that distinguishes the hemoglobin F or fetal hemoglobin containing fetal red blood cells from the adult cells that contains the adult hemoglobin or hemoglobin A. So what will be the reagents to be used? So it uses the acid reagents. So it should be buffered at pH 3.3. So what are those acid reagents? So it could be from citric acid, could be from phosphoric acid. Yan. So what is the principle of this test? So take note that hemoglobin F resists acid elution. So if the hemoglobin F containing cells take up the stain, so if the fetal hemoglobin resists acid elution, rather it will take up the stain. However, if the hemoglobin F or the fetal hemoglobin could take up the stain, the hemoglobin A containing cells appear as a ghost cell. Okay, so if the red blood cell is HbF positive, it will result or it will resist the acid elution and it will take up the stain. However, if the hemoglobin A, it will not resist the acid elution, it will be considered as a ghost cell. So in this procedure, the staining affinity must be considered before counting the fetal red cells. So the fetal cells have high hemoglobin F. So therefore, if there will be a high staining affinity, so in maternal cells, there will be traces of hemoglobin F, but the hemoglobin A is high. Therefore, the affinity is low. So we'll only count the cell with high staining affinity. Yan. So, as you can see, hemoglobin F resists acid elution. So, makita-take up niya yung stain. Masistain siya. However, for the adult hemoglobin or the maternal hemoglobin, no, it will reset or it will not take the stain. So, it will appear as the ghost cells. So, matingkad yung sa fetal cells. However, for the adult cells, cell siya kasi hindi niya natitake up masyado yung stain. So hemoglobin F is normally found in traces only of maternal cells. So there will be light staining. Hindi siya totally na wala talaga siyang kulay. Okay, so let us have a discussion on the calculation for the administration of RhoGAM, no, or the vials to be used for administration, kung ilang dose yung ibibigay natin sa patient. But first, we have to count, no, the volume of fetal maternal hemorrhage based on the Kleihauer-Betke. So for the formula, so the number of fetal red cells times the maternal blood volume divided by the number of maternal cells counted. So the number of maternal cells, take note for this one. It's 2,000 divided by or minus the number of the fetal cells. So that's the formula for the fetal maternal hemorrhage. So why is it that it's 2,000? Because only 2,000 cells are counted for Clay Howard Betke. So take note that you have to count only the cells on the feathery edge where the cells are not overlapping. And if the maternal blood volume is not mentioned, you have to use 5,000 ml because 5,000 ml is the average volume of a woman in a childbearing age, which is equivalent to 5 liters or 5,000 ml. Okay, so for the number of fetal cells, no, that's the percent fetal cells is times 50 is equals to fetal maternal hemorrhage. So that's the shortcut volume. Okay, so the percent fetal cells, this one, okay, is the number of fetal cells counted divided by 2,000 times 100. So to determine the number of vials, you have to divide the fetal maternal hemorrhage volume by 30. Okay, so medyo nakakalito pa siya, no? But let's try to apply the first computation before we can count, no, the number of vials based on the formula here. So for the sample problem, no, an acid elution stain was made using a 1 hour post-delivery maternal blood sample. So it was stated here that 2,000 cells were counted and 30 of these cells appear to have fetal hemoglobin. So we will need this, no, for the calculation. So you have to calculate the number of vials of program that would be indicated under circumstances. So what will be the given here? So for the given, before you can proceed with the calculation, let's first identify which is given for from the dun sa paragraph. So for the given, the number of fetal cells is 30. Okay, so that's HbF. And then we also have the number of maternal cell. The number of maternal cell is 2,000 minus 30. So bakit kaya minus natin yung 30? Kasi yung 30, yun yung pinaka fetal cell or fetal hemoglobin. So 2,000, that's the total number of cells counted, minus 30. So the maternal cell is 1,970. Okay, so that's 1,970. And then for the maternal blood volume, that's 5,000 ml. Okay, so let's try to follow the two solutions. No, we have the longer method or we have the simpler method. So for the solution number one or for the longer method, so FMH. So let's apply the formula before we can calculate. No, so FMH per ml is equals to the number of fetal cells times the maternal blood volume divided by the number of maternal cell. So to calculate that, okay, so 30, the number of fetal cells is 30 times, then the maternal blood volume, it's not indicated there, so it's automatically 5,000 ml divided by the number of maternal cell. So the number of maternal cell, ito yung kinuha natin. So that's 1,970. So 1,970, okay? So that is equals to 76.14 ml. Okay? So, later na tayo mag-proceed dun sa next step natin. Okay? Before tayo mag-proceed dun sa vials. Let's proceed first dun sa second solution. So, for solution number 2, so the number of fetal cell, okay, is equals to, so the number of fetal cell is equals to, okay, 30 divided by 2,000 times 100. Okay? 30 divided by 2,000 times 100. So from this, you will get, okay, 1.5 times, okay, times 50. Okay, so yung 50, okay, so 50, di ba yun yung pinaka-ano natin, yung sa simpler way natin. So you will get here, okay, 1.5 times 50 is equals to 75. 75. So, next, always remember that for the next step, no? So, nakuha mo na yung FMH, no? So, to get the FMH, we have two solutions that were given. Next step that we will do is we have to get or determine the number of vials. So, always remember that to determine the number of vials, you divide the fetal maternal hemorrhage by 50. Okay? Why 30 rather? Why 30? It's because the standard or one vial of the standard dose of Rogam can neutralize for up to 30 ml of fetal-maternal hemorrhage. Okay, so always, once you have already um, counted or calculated for the fetal-maternal hemorrhage, you have to now get the number or to calculate the number of vials for Rogam. So you have to divide it by 30 ml of FMH. So for that, no, we have a particular rule in calculating for the ROGAM, no? Para hindi masyadong magkulang doon sa pinaka patient natin. So for decimals less than 5, you had to round down. So round down and add one dose. So for example, if it's 2.4, you will round down to 2 plus 1. So you will have 3 vials. So always plus 1. And then for decimals more than 5, okay, you have to round up and add one dose. So if it's 2.7, if you're going to round it out or up to the nearest tens, it will become 3, and then you always add 1. Okay, so why always add one dose? Because it's always added to ensure the complete neutralization of fetal cell to complete the maternal circulation. So let's try to add or let's incorporate this to the sample problem. So kanina, no, we had already calculated the fetal maternal hemorrhage. So the ruling for this to administer ROGAM, you have to divide it by 30. Diba? Kasi 30, okay, always remember bakit 30? It's because the 30 or to determine the number of vials, no? 30 because one vial of the standard dose of Rogam can neutralize 30 ml of the fetal-maternal hemorrhage. So, divide mo siya by 30. So, 76.14 rather, 76.14 divided by 30. So, that is 2.5. So, dito na tayo, 2.5. So, that's 5, no? So, 0.5, you round it up to 3. So, 3 plus 1, 4 vials. Okay? And then for solution number 2, no, 75, no, so divided by 30, so that is 2.5 plus, okay, 2.5. So you have to round it up to 3, and then you add plus 1 to get 4 vials. So the answer for this one is 4 vials. Now, let us go to the diagnosis and treatment or management for the HDFN. So, this is focused on the developing fetus. No? So, this is more on the fetus or developing fetus. So, number one is amniocentesis. So, for amniocentesis, okay, this one focuses on the collection of the amniotic fluid. So, the amniotic fluid is tested for bilirubin, and the bilirubin concentration is measured. So in bilirubin concentration, the change of the optical density or the absorbance at 450 nanometers wavelength is being measured. So after measuring the bilirubin, you know, the bilirubin concentration is compared to the gestational age of the fetus. Okay, and this will be plotted to a Lilly graph. So this is plotted to a Lillis graph. So for Lillis graph, no, it has three zones. So zone 1, zone 2, and zone 3. So for zone 1, this is the lower part of the graph. And then for zone number 2, that's the middle part of the graph. And then for the zone 3, that's the upper part of the graph. So for zone 1, no, there is a mild HDFN or absent HDFN. And then for zone 2, there is a moderate HDFN. And then for zone 3, that's severe HDFN or life-threatening HDFN. So for this, no, for zone 2 and zone 3, medical intervention is already required. And then for zone 1, no medical intervention is required. Next is the percutaneous umbilical blood sampling or PUBS. So for chordocentesis, no, you will need a cord blood sample testing for measurement if there is fetal anemia. So for the cord blood hemoglobin, no, you will check for the hemoglobin of the cord blood if there is fetal anemia. So if there is less than 10 grams per deciliter, that's significant of fetal anemia. Whereas if there is less than 8 grams per deciliter of fetal hemoglobin or cord blood hemoglobin, there is a severe fetal anemia. Next is the direct antiglobulin test or the direct Coombs test. So this is for determination of in vivo sensitization of fetal red blood cells after, okay, produced by the maternal antibodies. So this is the single most important test to diagnose HDFN because the antibodies are produced after birth, not unless the antibody of the mother is able to cross the placenta. So if the antibodies of the mother can cross the placenta and that could sensitize the fetal cell, that is already indicative of a positive direct antiglobulin test, which could cause HDFN. Next is antibody screening and identification. So this is useful for non-ABO type of HDFN, such as KEL, KID, Duffy, okay, and big S and small s. Next is reticulocyte count. So reticulocyte count is also done for testing for the cells of the fetus, no, due to abnormal hematopoiesis. There will be an increased reticulocyte count or blast or immature red blood cells that could also cause or contribute to the anemia of the fetus. Next is the intrauterine transfusion. So this is a delicate procedure wherein the donor unit is transfused to the developing fetus through the intrauterine vein. So what will be or this is done in the following conditions. So number one, if there is a positive hydrops fetalis or fetal edema in the ultrasound. The second thing is the cord blood hemoglobin is less than 10 grams per deciliter, or the amniotic fluid bilirubin is at upper zone 3 and 4, 2 and 3 rather. Next is phototherapy. So phototherapy is performed to decrease and correct hyperbilirubinemia. So the phototherapy to correct hyperbilirubinemia has two actions. So number one, it promotes the photoconversion of B1 to less toxic form, okay, to less toxic form which is biliverdin. Next is another action of phototherapy is it promotes the destruction of excess B1 in the peripheral circulation. Next is early delivery. So early delivery is done or this is necessary to disrupt the transplacental movement of the maternal antibodies to the fetal circulation. So kailan usually ginagawa ang early delivery? So this is done during the third trimester of pregnancy. So not to the point na full term na yung pregnancy. Next is exchange transfusion. So for exchange transfusion, this is the simultaneous withdrawal of blood and infusion of compatible blood to infants with HDFN. So take note that exchange transfusion is always done in small volume or aliquots. Okay? So what are the actions of exchange transfusion? So exchange transfusion, take note, is done for number one, decrease the B1 level. Number two, to correct anemia. And number three, that's to remove the infant sensitized red blood cells. And the number four, this is to prepare, or this is to decrease rather, this is to decrease the concentration of incompatible antibody. Okay, so for exchange transfusion, what are the preference of specimen for compatibility testing? So ano yung mga kailangan? Number one, you will need a maternal serum. Next is you will need an eluate. You will need an eluate of the infant sensitized sensitized red blood cells. And then the third one, you will need infant serum. Now, what are the donor blood characteristics for exchange transfusion? So, letter A, it must be group specific or must be negative for the antigen against which the mother's antibodies are directed. So, for example, for ABO-HDFN, So, what are the maternal antibodies that could cause HDFN? So, um we have anti-A, anti-B, and anti-A comma B. Next, it must not have, or the donor's blood type rather, must be O, or blood type O. Next, for RH-HDFN naman, okay, the donor must be RH negative. Okay, so the donor must be RH negative because the maternal antibodies that could cause HDFN is anti-D antibodies. Okay, so next, it should be a group O specific, okay? It should be a group O or the same ABO group as the mother and an infant. So next is it must not have any unexpected antibodies. So for that, no, the donor unit must be tested for antibody screening. Next, it must be less than 7 months old. 7 days rather. It must be 7 days old. So why is it that it must be 7 days old? So this is to maximize. So this is to maximize the levels of 2,3-DPG and to prevent donor unit hyperkalemia. Next, it should be negative for cytomegalovirus or CMV. So to prevent the transmission of CMV to the recipient of the blood. So to prevent the donor unit from transmitting CMV, so the donor unit must be further processed into a unit. No? So for that, no, to decrease the possibility of transmitting CMV, you have to leukodeplete red blood cells. So, ibig sabihin yan, no, leukodeplete meaning this is a component wherein you have to decrease the WBC to the red blood cell unit. Why? Because the CMV usually resides on the WBCs. Okay? So, kailangan yung unit na ibibigay mo sa patient mo is malilesen yung possibility na makatransmit yung donor ng cytomegalovirus. And the next is it should be negative from hemoglobin S. And for that, it must be recommended to irradiated. Hindi siya irradiated to prevent the graft versus host disease. This is the graft versus host disease. Okay, so this usually is recommended if the recipient of the blood is immunocompromised. Now, it's required and it is a must that the blood must be irradiated. So, how do we prevent HDFN? So, of course, for RH-HDFN, you must have or you must administer RH immunoglobulin. So, RH immunoglobulin is a concentrated and purified anti-D gamma globulin, which will act as an immunosuppressant, and it is given to a non-immunized RH negative mother who had given birth to an RH positive infant, and that is to suppress the development of anti-D antibodies. So, sino yung bibigyan ng ROGAM? Of course, the mother. Para maiwasan natin yung possibility ng pag-form ng anti-D during the pregnancy. So, this will act as a form of a passive artificial immunity. So what are the standard criteria for administration of ROGAM? So always remember, number one, the mother must be Rh negative. Next, the infant must be Rh positive. Next, for number three, the mother must be immunized to the D antigen. So, the mother doesn't have the D antigen yet. Okay? The mother doesn't have the D antigen yet. So, if for the untreated mechanism, no, for the untreated mechanism, the fetal red cells are exposed to maternal circulation just because of the transplacental hemorrhage. So, the mother is exposed to the D antigen and will produce an anti-D. But for the treated mechanism, if you will expose the mother to ROGAM, or if you will give the mother ROGAM, the fetal red blood cells present in the maternal system, once the ROGAM is administered to the mother, the ROGAM will neutralize the transplacental hemorrhage. So that the reticular endothelial system of the mother can sequester the fetal cell without her forming an antibody. Okay, so the spleen of the mother will then remove the fetal cell by lysing the red blood cell. And if there are fetal cells lysing, there will be immunization. Thus, there will be no antibody production. So, for the indications of the ROGAM, so there will be a postpartum, which is given for Rh negative mother, should receive the ROGAM after delivery. Kaya siya postpartum, no, to an Rh positive infant. So what will be the recommended time for postpartum? So it should be within 3 days. Okay? Because after 3 days, there is already immune response or the antibody is already formed after 3 days. So to prevent the antibody formation, kailangan within that period of time na 3 days, mabigay mo na yung ROGAM. For the postpartum, no, usually the full dose is given. And then for the antenatal, the RHIG should be given early in the third trimester. Or about the 28 weeks of gestation. So for antenatal ROGAM, no? So full dose is given. Full dose is also given. And then for number 3, so madagdag ko lang, so for all unsensitized, Rh negative women who had spontaneous abortion or miscarriage for about 12 weeks. For about 12 weeks of gestation, kailangan mabigyan din sila ng ROGAM. So, yung binibigay na ROGAM for them is the 50 micrograms na microdose. So, for postpartum and antenatal, full dose ang binibigay. But for those unsensitized Rh negative women who had spontaneous abortion or miscarriage for up to 12 weeks of gestation should be given a 50 microgram microdose of the ROGAM. Okay, so for the dose and administration, so for the full dose or the 300 microgram dose of ROGAM, It can neutralize the effects of the 15 ml of Rh positive packed red blood cells or 30 ml of the whole blood. So this should be given in more than 12 weeks of gestation. And then for the 50 microgram RHIG or the microdose, so this is given for all unsensitized mothers who had abortion and those who had amniocentesis and ectopic pressure rupture rather up to 12 weeks of gestation. For microdose, no, very limited lang yung effects niya. So it can only neutralize the effects of the 5 ml whole blood fetal-maternal hemorrhage. It can also neutralize the 2.5 ml of packed red blood cells. So take note that the aborted fetus or tissue can still process the D antigen, which can induce the antibody production. Kaya kailangan pa rin talaga ng ROGAM. And that's it for our discussion. Thank you, everyone.